Yes.
Yes, then we have the classifications of the carbohydrates, and we say that we have simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates.
Yes.
So under the simple carbohydrates, we said we have monosaccharides and saccharides. Hello, side. I think I'm okay.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, so yeah, we talk of the complex carbohydrates as we have glycogen and starch. Also, I can say about the functions of the fiber, and we say that fiber can prevent constipation, control blood sugar levels in the body.
Yes.
Also, I can say that you said about the cholesterol that it lowers the cholesterol level.
Yes.
Also, it prevents the cardiovascular disease. Those diseases are
Yes.
like the hypertension
Yes.
and the heart failure.
Very good.
Yeah. Also, I can say about the symptoms of the cholesterol or the you talk of the blood vessels.
Yes.
Yes, and you would say that we have veins, arteries, and capillaries.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I'm okay up to there.
That is excellent, Mr. Emmanuel. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for paying attention during the class.
Yes, thank you.
Now, the rest of the students, I expect you to go to the chat session, write your name and your admission number. Remember, this meeting is recorded, so I'll be able to get your attendance today. Now, let us proceed very fast. We have heard what we covered in the previous lesson from Mr. Emmanuel Kosgei. Now, I want us to look at the functions of carbohydrates. I'm sure you have your pen and a notebook so that you'll be able to get the main points of our lesson today. And kindly, those who are still, I can hear some voices, kindly observe what we discussed yesterday. Leah Matiach, kindly mute your microphone. This one we have to mute so that they do not disturb our class. The rest, keep your microphone at least until we invite you to speak. Now, looking at the functions of carbohydrates, when you consider the notes that I sent you, we can see they are the primary sources of energy. They are the primary sources of energy. And I believe I'll be able to share with you the presentation so that you can be able to see what I'm able to see. But I'm sure maybe, let me see whether you'll be able to capture that. However, if it becomes a bit difficult, we can be able to see another way out of this. Briefly, those who are joining us, kindly type your name and admission number. I know the first class we shall have witches, but later on we shall proceed very well. I don't know how many are able to see my presentation. Maybe you can, if you're able to see the presentation, or if it is not visible, I can increase the, how many are able to see? If you're able to see, you can type on the chat session so that I'll be very sure you are able to see. Now, Sylvia Joy, you have raised your hand. You can unmute your microphone so that I hear from you. Emmanuel, are you able to see the presentation or it is very small?
I can't see well.
Yes?
I cannot see those notes. Oh, okay. I'm now seeing them.
You can now see, yeah? If you want to see the presentation, just go to, look at those people who are the attendees, and then you'll see Joseph Ndungu is presenting. Then you click on that name, Joseph Ndungu, and you will be able to see my PDF presentation. Kindly confirm you're able to do that. Emmanuel, are you able to do that? Are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes, I'm able to see your presentation.
Very good. Whoever is not able to see the presentation, you can refer to your notes. They are just the same. Now, looking at the functions of carbohydrates, you can see they are saying the primary function of carbohydrates is actually to provide energy. So when you look at the first one, you'll be able to see they are saying carbohydrates are the energy source. Now, majority of the body functions depend on energy. And this energy, it will come from carbohydrates. Remember, we said majority of our African diets are primarily starch. And 1 gram of this starch or glucose will give us 4 kilocalories. And this energy is used for cell division, metabolism, respiration, and any other body processes. So you can be able to do that. The second function of protein is carbohydrate, is the protein sparing action. And this means normally the preferred energy source. Crispinas, you should not be presenting. Crispinas is presenting. Let me see if I can be able to edit some of the rights, because now Crispinas is presenting, and that will confuse the other student. I know the first time we are not very conversant, but soon we shall be very smart in operating this software. Now, protein sparing means that the preferred source of energy from the body is carbohydrates. The moment you don't take enough carbohydrates, the body will have no option rather than to go for proteins. And once the proteins are used to provide energy, that's when we normally have malnutrition in form of kwashiorkor and other forms like marasmus. So it is very important to appreciate that without the intake of carbohydrates, the proteins will not be used to play their role. Rather, they will be used for the production of energy. Another point they are saying, carbohydrates regulate fat metabolism. That is true. Once we have enough carbohydrates in our diet, the body will be able to use fats again for the functions they do in the human body. In absence of carbohydrates, fats will be broken down to provide energy. But remember, the best source of energy for the body is from carbohydrates. Once we have energy coming from fats, we shall have a process known as ketogenesis, which is normally seen in patients with diabetes. Remember, in diabetes, individuals are not able to convert carbohydrates into energy. So for proper metabolism of fats, we need to take enough carbohydrates in the diet. Other functions that have been mentioned here is some of the regulatory functions in the GIT. For example, we can see lactose promotes growth of desirable bacteria in the small intestine. For example, we know vitamin K is normally synthesized in the GIT of humans. They are saying lactose, which is a carbohydrate, promotes absorption of calcium, and we know the role of calcium in the body. It strengthens the bones, the teeth, and of course, aids in the process of blood clotting. Other starches we discussed today, not starches other than polysaccharides, we mentioned of cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectins. We said they do not provide the body with any energy. They're indigestible. However, Mr. Emmanuel has just discussed some of the benefits of having dietary fiber in our diet, from reducing or controlling blood sugar, preventing cardiovascular diseases, dealing with diabetes mellitus, prevention of cancers, and of course, making digestion easier, and other functions we discussed in today's classes. Now, carbohydrates are part of body compounds. And we have very good examples here. For example, they are talking of glucuronic acid. They are saying it is produced in the liver, and it is a member of mucopolysaccharides. We are being told this acid is a detoxifying agent. I know it's for the first time you are meeting that an acid can be a carbohydrate, but as we proceed in the knowledge of carbohydrates, we shall discover that they can appear in acidic form. Because if you remember from your chemistry, an acid is a substance that yields hydrogen or can actually donate a hydrogen. So there are quite a number of carbohydrates that are very key in our human body. Heparin, they are saying it is a very good in blood coagulation. Chondroitin sulfate, it is found in the skin, the tendons, the cartilage, the bones, and the heart valves. They're also talking of immunopolysaccharides as part of the body mechanism to resist infections. Remember, we have been talking of boosting our immune system, and especially during this period of pandemic. And there are so many which I'll leave them up to you to enjoy in the fullness of time. I know you will have a lot of flavor in looking at some of the functions of carbohydrates. But the most important one is energy production. They form structural compounds. They enable proteins to be utilized. They also enable fats to be utilized. And they are the best sources of dietary fiber. And all these are functions of carbohydrates. Today we looked at dietary fiber, and we said normally the cell walls of a plant, they are normally made up of beta glucose. In our body, we only have the alpha glucose, not alpha glucose, but alpha enzymes. For example, we have alpha amylase that can be able to digest the alpha glucose. Any indigestible material will be classified as dietary fiber. And good example is one of the polysaccharide we were not able to look due to time. Lignin, others are cellulose, others are hemicellulose. All those polysaccharides, they are able to work as fiber. I believe you are following me very well, and my presentation is visible. There are two types of fiber. There are two types of dietary fiber. The first one we are being reminded here is soluble fiber. This one can dissolve in water and it will form a gel-like material. They are saying it can help lower blood cholesterol and glucose levels. And we said cholesterol will be deposited on the inner walls of the arteries, making them narrow, inelastic, and as a consequence, raising the blood pressure. So once we are able to control how much cholesterol we have in our bloodstream, we are able now to control hypertension and other cardiovascular diseases, such as stroke and heart diseases. And also we were able to demonstrate today that glucose levels can actually come down if we take diet with high fiber. And that is a good thing. They are saying soluble fiber is found in oats, peas, beans, apples, citrus fruits, carrots, barley, and psyllium. So once you take a piece of banana or something that the body can be able to use, then you are likely to get dietary fiber. The insoluble fiber, this is the type of fiber that promotes movement of materials through digestive system and increases the stool bulk. So it can be of benefit to those who are struggling with constipation or irregular stool. And we said once you have constipation, it will lead to other disease conditions. We were able to identify hemorrhoids. We were able to talk of diverticulitis, which is outpocketing of the large intestines. We also mentioned about colon and rectal cancer. And one of the mechanisms here is actually increasing the bulk so that the materials in the bowel are able to move much faster, because we defined constipation as inability to pass stool at regular intervals. And one of the contributing factors to constipation is actually taking food without fiber, meaning there is no something to aid in the movement of this bowel content. Our good sources are vegetables. If you look at majority of the vegetables, because they are plant-based and you are taking the entire vegetable, they will contain a lot of insoluble fiber and you end up receiving the benefits. Now, if you look at the physical properties of this fiber, or how fiber is able to benefit the human body, it's because of certain properties. Look at water holding capacity. We have talked of soluble fiber, means it is able to bind water. They are saying it looks like a sponge, able to draw water and increase the bulk of the intestinal contents. Viscosity, it is able to form a viscous gel-like solution. And that's why the absorption of glucose into the blood will be slower when we take food with dietary fiber. Another one is cation exchange capacity. I believe a cation is a positively charged ion. The knowledge on chemistry should be able to assist you in that. Another one is bile binding capacity, the ability to bind bile salts or bile acids, which are produced by the gallbladder, released through the bile ducts into the small intestines. And one of the functions of bile is to assist in fat digestion. One of the property of the dietary fiber is actually to bind this bile, because one of the components of bile, if you remember in our discussion today, we mentioned bile has cholesterol. If we don't bind this cholesterol, it will get reabsorbed in the human body and cause a lot of difficulties in terms of cardiovascular diseases. Another one is fermentability. It can be broken down to produce gases. No wonder we normally produce gases when we take food with high fiber. And some of those fibers are cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins, gums, and mucilages. And all these are what we said, they are complex carbohydrates. We were not able to go into details today on what is cellulose, the composition, whether it is branched or not. I believe with the content that we have here, you'll be able to enjoy the full flavor of the complex carbohydrates, right away from cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins. These ones we were not able to look. But from what we can hear, this one you find them in like bananas. Pectins are part of what we call the soluble fiber. You can look at more information on pectins. And also hemicellulose, we also said these ones again will form what we call the soluble fiber. Hemicellulose will form soluble fiber, but cellulose will be part of insoluble fiber. I'm sure you are noting those key points. Lignin, they are saying, is non-polysaccharide fiber, three-dimensional structure, so it is tough and rigid. It is able to withstand some pressure. It is able to withstand some pressure. Now, sources of this fiber, we just look at it. You can see the sources of soluble fiber, and you can see the sources of insoluble fiber. So what should be very clear and what should be the take-home message today is that these soluble fibers or insoluble fibers are very essential in the body, in the human body. And in your diet, or when you'll be working as a nutritionist, when you're designing diets for people with such kind of conditions, or those who want to prevent such conditions, then you have a list of food items that you can localize based on what is available in certain places, and you're able to come with a high fiber diet, which can be very beneficial. There's something about digestion of carbohydrates, but I believe this one, we shall be able to look at it in details. You should be able to draw the digestive system. You should be able to name the parts of the digestive system and be able to point at which point or explain what happens in the mouth, what happens in the stomach, what happens in the small intestine, and what happens in the large intestine. Importantly for you to note is that digestion of carbohydrates starts in the mouth because we have some enzymes. We have amylase enzyme in the saliva. We know there is no digestion of carbohydrates in the stomach because, again, the acidic conditions in the stomach does not promote the enzymatic activity of amylase. So in the stomach, very limited digestion will occur there on carbohydrates. But when we come to the small intestine, most of the work happen there. We have enzymes such as pancreatic amylase that will hydrolyze or break polysaccharides into disaccharides. And you can see the disaccharide, the enzyme, and the, sorry for that, and the end product. So I believe you'll be able to look at this. Again, I have given you some guidelines. Be able to remember if we had time, I could have projected some videos on digestion, but I believe if we shall organize the next class, we shall be able to demonstrate digestion of carbohydrates all the way from the mouth to the large intestines. So we had scheduled this lecture to be strictly 30 minutes, and I'll be able to stop there and take some few questions, 1 or 2 questions, and then we shall break. Now, any student who has a question can they are free to ask, or they can write on the chat session. And I want to believe majority of you has been able to record your names and admission number on the chat session. Now, Crispinas, you are free to open the microphone. You are free to open the microphone. Yes, sir.
What are the end products of starch?
The end product of?
Starch.
The end of product of starch will be glucose.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on the carbohydrates. For example, there are carbohydrates that are primarily, you can mute your microphone, Crispinas. Yes, so that we can be able to hear each other. Now, there are carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates that are primarily made up of glucose. That one will only yield glucose. But those that are heterogeneous polysaccharides, these ones could be made up of glucose, fructose, or galactose. Depending on what makes a certain carbohydrates, that will depend the monosaccharides that will be produced at the end of digestion. Any other question? Sylvia Joy? Sylvia Joy, you have your hands up. Crispinas, you can also drop your hand. And Sylvia, maybe you can drop your hand. Click on the hand and it will disappear. Thank you. Now that there is no other question, thank you for attending this short lecture, and I hope with the time you'll be able to do much more. Now, Rebecca, you can ask your question plus Emmanuel.
Sir, I just wanted you to repeat on insoluble fibers. I didn't get it well.
Okay, the insoluble fiber is the one that is able to absorb water. Remember, we have 2 classes of fiber. One is soluble, the other one is insoluble. Now, for example, hemicellulose is an example of insoluble fiber. And the reason is it has the water binding capacity, and it can also dissolve in water. If it can dissolve in water, then it is a soluble fiber. And a good example of food that will give you a soluble fiber is banana. Banana will just give you a soluble fiber. However, If you talk of cellulose, which is indigestible, that will give you insoluble fiber. Any other question? Thank you. Welcome. Emmanuel?
Yes.
Yes, come. Your question, please.
Okay, I'm asking of the functions of the heparin.
Yes. We said it is anticoagulant.
Yeah, because for me here, only one function, that is for blood clot. Yeah,
Continue.
is there any other function? Okay, I'm asking if there is any other function, or the only one that you have said is a coagulant.
We only have that anticoagulant as
Yes.
the function of heparin relating to it being a carbohydrate.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the only function we have. And coagulation is actually assisting the blood to clot. In fact, heparin is known as a blood thinner. It prevents the blood from forming clots. And it is especially important for individuals wenye wako na shida ya blood kuclot. Unajua kuna there are people who take the blood thinners, and especially when they don't have enough vitamin B, when they have excess vitamin B9 and B12, their blood is likely to be thick. So they take this one to enable the blood to flow smoothly and to prevent it from clotting. And the good sources of that heparin, you can find it in liver, lungs, and many cells in the human body. So in medicine, it is normally used to prevent blood from becoming thick. Any other question? Chris Pinas?
You see, white blood cells help in blood clotting.
Yes?
Is
Yes.
it true that white blood cells help in blood clotting? On addition to that point,
Yes. You know, platelets, actually platelets will be the blood cells responsible for blood clotting. But there's quite a number of other compounds that are necessary for blood clotting. For example, calcium, and we can also have plasma proteins being involved. Yes, Chris?
thank you.
Welcome. I can see somebody has just joined us. Kindly write your name on the chat session. Thank you very much for attending this lecture. See you next time. And thank you. Tomorrow you'll sign the attendance. Enjoy your evening. James Karaoke, what do you have to say?
Thank you for the lesson.
Welcome. Welcome. And I can see people enjoying themselves kabisa. Watu wanajienjoy kabisa. Haya, mkuwe na wakati mwema.
You too. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.